All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Justin Same 321. Today we have another tabletop review for you today, and today we are going to be reviewing a couple of WASR 10s and a Zastava M92. So if y'all are interested in that type of thing, stick around, stay tuned, and like and subscribe, and we're going to have some fun today looking at a few rifles. So if y'all are interested, obviously stay tuned. But we're going to just go ahead and dive right into this. We have two WASR 10s. We have an underfolder and one more traditional wood stock. And then we have a Zastava M92. But we'll go ahead and start with the WASR 10 right here with this underfolder. And yeah, you want to go ahead?
This is a WASR 1063. It has the trunnion is marked 1979, so it's a rebuilt AK. Underfolders, little button presses right here. Some of the mods on this AK are a leather strap here on the underfolder just for comfort while you're shooting. It does have an ALG trigger, but just regular triggers are good too. And a heat shield on top, cheese grater. And a 3-chamber brake.
And for those of y'all that don't know, the WASR 10s come from Romania. This particular one was built on a old 79 parts kits like you mentioned before. And the other WASR we have is actually a new production, so there are differences between WASRs. Some of them can be built on parts kits. Some of them can be brand new straight from the factory. So, if y'all don't know a whole lot about AKs, they're strange if you're not familiar with them. But we'll go ahead and look at this newer WASR right here and more traditional furniture, solid stock and everything. I personally care more about the ones that are like this. I don't like the bubbaed and tacticooled ones. But yeah, I like the more traditional ones as you see right here. And that is just a regular Romanian WASR 10, like a newer production. I think, would you say it was a 2015 production? So yeah, WASR 10s have been around for a very long time. So yeah, and they're pretty notorious in the AK community for being extremely reliable and robust and that sort of thing. Just going to give y'all a quick little show of, the couple of differences. Obviously, you see that one has the underfolder on it. And for those of y'all that don't know, you can't just put an underfolder on an AK. Like, you can't just swap a stock like that. With these, unfortunately, they're not like an AR. You have to totally disassemble the gun and put a whole new rear trunnion in it, and then you can put a underfolder on your AK. It is not as simple as just unscrewing a couple of things and then slapping it together. No, you have to totally disassemble this thing and re-rivet it and everything and swap trunnions. So, AKs are totally different than ARs if y'all aren't familiar with that. But yeah, we'll keep going.
It's still just as fun to customize them though.
It really is.
And make it your own. And see that this one, there's a few mods here. I really like the leather on the AK, leather sling, leather wrap, and as you see, red.
Yeah, modifying AKs is totally different than modifying like ARs. Sometimes AK parts come from so many different countries and so many different places. Their tolerances are so loose, they're meant to more or less interchange. So some customizing to parts when you're putting them together is necessary, unlike an AR-15 where everything just goes together like a Lego kit. But AKs, they take a little bit more love and care and building sometimes. You might have to file something. You might have to grind something down. You might actually have to break out some tools. But we're going to go ahead. He's just showing you all the mags. That one has actually been coated red. Nice little candy red gloss. I believe that's KG coated. It's been baked on there. So it isn't just like rattle canned. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Zastava M92 right here. This would be what was kind of referred to as a crink-off style. It has a Midwest Industry front grip right here. I'm honestly not a big fan of, like upgraded furniture and things like that. I like the wood style, but when I acquired this one, it was pretty much already like this. All I did was, I had a buddy of mine paint it red, and I put this Bushnell red dot on it because the person who had it before me, if you can tell, had completely sawed off the rear sight on this dust cover of a crank off. So, don't do that. Don't bubba your guns. Please don't, especially on something like this. If you don't know what you're doing, please don't do it, because obviously you can see there's no rear sight on this anymore, so it has to have a red dot. But cool thing about these, one thing that is different about the M92 versus the WASR, the M92 actually comes out of Serbia. And a lot of differences is most AKs you can generally swap furniture for the most part, but on the Serbians in particular, they have longer forends. So you can't just swap, your WASR furniture like you normally could on, you can't go from a WASR to a Zastava, unfortunately. But most other ones are going to be more patterned like your WASR 10, so they can exchange furnitures and whatnot. But the Zastavas, they're kind of weird. They're an AK, but they're their own AK. Because some countries, obviously, they have their own doctrines, they have their own way that they like to do things, and Serbia does their AK different than other places. So, some parts aren't always going to jive together. Like, for instance, when you're disassembling these, the main difference with this crank style Zastava is when you're disassembling it, normally your top cover, dust cover, normally when you do this, it would remove straight up and out. You could remove it totally. But on this one, it's on a hinge, which I actually think is kind of cool. These dust covers are actually a little bit thicker and more robust than a typical dust cover because they're top hinged. But it disassembles, just like a regular AK. Same thing. Here we go.
And so most of the com block AKs are very, very similar. Some people have a preference for Russian or Romanian. I really have had good luck with the Romanian AKs. I've also had good luck with Russian AKs. I've had several. I've had a Sega and an Arsenal in the past. Kind of kicking myself for getting rid of those now. There you go. She got it together. Let's see what else here.
Oh, and another difference between the Zastavas and the WASRs too, for those of y'all that don't know, these are actually all stamped receivers, but like I mentioned before, Zastava does like to do things different than the rest of the people that make AKs. Like one of the instances is, this has a dimpled receiver. If you can see this right here, it has dimples on it. It's not just for, looking cute when you're shooting. Actually, what this does is add a little bit of reinforcement to the receiver. It keeps it, it adds rigidity and strength. It keeps it from flexing. Like for instance, AK magazines, they have these in here, the lines in them for stability. Type 1 AK magazines were called slab sides. They didn't have them, but they were extremely, extremely heavy and overbuilt, which is why they have these magazines now with ridges and things like that to add reinforcement to cut weight and still add necessary, I guess, how do I say this? The necessary for it to still function under, military needs.
The dimple also serves to keep your magazine from wobbling too much. And the way the Romanians got around that is actually welded. So it's, as you can see, there's not a dimple on the side of this Romanian. But they, in the inside, actually, I don't know if you'll be able to tell in this camera. Well, they welded a plate on each side, the Romanians do. And that keeps the magazines from wobbling.
Yeah, so again, different country of origins for AKs, they do things a little differently from each other, either through, for doctrine necessity or just for logistical and manufacturing necessity. So that's kind of the cool things about AKs is they come from a lot of different places, and, it's kind of cool to see how different places in the world think and do different things, or the same take on the same thing. So it's kind of cool just to see the differences in the countries that do things differently on the same thing. And I honestly think that that's pretty cool. So the cool thing about AKs is, they come from a lot of different places. There's East German AKs, WASR 10s, Serbians, Hungarians, Polish. You name it, the list goes on and on and on. And they're all slightly different from each other, which to me makes them pretty cool because they all have distinct features of their own. And speaking of East German things, we have a East German magazine pouch right here. So, you know, and the cool thing, like we mentioned before in my last video about collecting surplus isn't limited to just firearms. You can actually get surplus like gear. And, you know, I think it's pretty cool because the cool thing about East German stuff is, if you don't know, East Germany does not exist anymore. It was a snapshot in time when the Berlin Wall was up. So, you know, it's a little reminder of history. And, you know, I kind of think that's pretty cool. You know, like, obviously we don't get East German things anymore. The Berlin Wall is gone. We'll never see it again. Hopefully we don't. But, you know, and this is
Hungarian.
Yeah, a Hungarian mag pouch.
The 5-cell mag pouch. And it's kind of made of this vinyl, which makes it really strong and makes it relatively waterproof as well.
Yeah, I like that one. I have one here as well. They're extremely robust. They're really thick. They carry a lot of magazines. But again, it's just cool to see how different countries do the same thing, but their own take on it. And like I said, to me, it's pretty interesting. So, you know, like if y'all are into this sort of thing, or if y'all are new to this and y'all want to know more, you know, like I said, stay tuned, stick around, ask questions, like, comment, subscribe, you know, so.
One of the coolest thing about AKs, it's very hard to get into collecting AKs. So many AKs, and they cost so much money these days.
Yes.
One of the things you can get into is the magazines.
Yes.
Every country has produced their own magazines, and they're usually marked, and you can tell in some way that they are from that country. And so AK magazines are generally a little bit cheaper and just as collectible.
Yeah, like there's Bakelite magazines, Plum magazines, Waffle magazines, Slabside magazines, I mean, Bolt Open magazines, you name it, the list goes on. Like I said, the cool thing about AKs is every country does things slightly differently, so they're kind of like Pokemon cards, you know? Like you just collect until there's nothing left to collect. But unfortunately, the way that Corona has made things, it has made collecting and doing this hobby extremely expensive, and it's honestly not as fun as it used to be because of it. But with that being said, I mean, we still like to have fun. We try to have fun collecting this stuff, and you know, if anybody that watches this has anything like this, you know, feel free to talk about it in the comments. Or if y'all have cool stuff like this and y'all want for me to do a review on it, feel free to let me know. I would love to review other people's things if y'all are into that. So if y'all live in the Houston and surrounding area and y'all are watching this and y'all have something awesome, you know, feel free to let me know. Like I would love to do a review on it. So, you know, y'all keep that in mind.
One of the things we didn't talk about is all the AKs we talked about here on the table are 7.62 by 39. They do come in 12 gauge, 7.62 by 39, 5.45 by 39, 5.56, and on, you know, they're 9mm AKs. They have AKs in so many calibers, but one of the great things about 7.62 by 39 is that you can still find it and it's still relatively cheap.
Yes.
Compared to other ammunition, and really just finding it is the key right now. You can go into Academy and find this. You can go to Cabela's and find it. You can find it online or any of your local gun shops.
Yes, and the cool thing about AKs is, you know, they eat steel, they eat brass. You know, if it doesn't eat steel, then it doesn't deserve brass, in my opinion, with an AK. So that's the cool thing about AKs. You can feed it steel, unlike an AR or anything else. I don't recommend you shooting steel in anything like that because you're going to have a lot of problems. But with an AK, it is no problem at all, and it is cheaper. So, you know...
We're not buying brass for our AK anyways.
Yeah, who buys brass for AKs? I mean, yeah, not even necessary. Feed it steel. Steel's good.
Yeah.
But I guess that's going to wrap up this tabletop review for right now, guys. Like I said, we're going to have range reviews for these as well, so stay tuned. We're going to have a few more gun videos lined up for y'all in the future. So, like I said, if y'all into this kind of thing, like, subscribe, comment, that sort of thing. And, you know, thank y'all for staying tuned for this long, and, you know, stay tuned for the next video.